We have written the code that allows us to turn on a light by pressing and holding down a key and to turn that light off when we release the key. But maybe that's not how you want your light to behave. Maybe you don't want to have to keep your finger on the F key to make that light continue. Maybe you just want to press F to turn it on, and then when you're ready to turn it off, you press F again and it turns it off. I'm going to comment this code out. I highlight it all and press Control/, comments out that whole section. We're going to come back to that code, that's why I'm not deleting it. Let's think about how else we can do this. We could say, if I press down the key, then I basically want to check to see if it's on, and if it's on, turn it off, and if it's not on, turn it on. I can do that by checking if the target is currently enabled, meaning the light is already on. We can set it to be off. And we can use an else here to say if it wasn't already on, then we can make it turn on. This is an example of a nested conditional statement. I'm going to save this and run it. Now when I press F and let go, it still stays on. And then I press F again and it turns off. What would be really nice is if the person attaching this script had the option of whether they want it to behave by holding the key down or by toggling it back and forth. Well, we can do that using a Boolean variable. I'm going to add another public variable. It's going to be of type bool, which holds true or false values. We're going to name it only while key down. And again, I'm not going to give it a value here. And because it's bool, it'll show up in the editor as a little checkbox. If they check it, it means it's true. And if they don't check it, it'll be false. So if they have that checked, we want the light to only be on when they're holding the F key down, which is this code we commented out. If it's false, then we want it to be able to do this code instead. So we're going to do some more if statements. The first one is going to be if only while key down. We could write equal true, right? So to check to see is that value true or not. But that would just evaluate down. It would say if true equals true or if false equals true. It's a little redundant because only while key down already has a value of true or false. So we don't really need that. We can just say if only while key down and it will know if that's true or false. I'm going to use my curly braces here. I'm going to move this commented code inside of here and tab it over. I can press Control/ to get rid of those slashes. And now what we have is this code running only if I had checked that property. But what if I didn't check the property? Well, we want this code to run, but only if we didn't check the other property, so we're going to put that inside of an else statement. I'm going to move that code again and tab it over. So now we've got a very nested conditional structure. So it takes some time to get used to this, and I would study it a little bit. But basically, this else down here goes to this if, and that's why we indented the way we did. If that is checked, then we're going to use this way of turning the light on and off. Else, if it's not checked, we're going to use this way of turning the light on or off. Let's see if it's working. Come back to Unity, go to my FPS controller, and look at my script. I do see a new property there. I guess if we made this a little bigger, you would see the whole name of it. We're going to check it to begin with and press run. And now if I press and hold down the F key, it's there, and if I let go, it goes away. So that's basically requiring me to keep the key down to make this object be turned on. If I press escape and stop and uncheck that box and run it again. Now if I press F and hold it down, it's on. If I let go, it stays on. Now it's behaving the other way, and if I press F again, then it turns off. So basically what we're doing through these iterations of writing this code is making the script more flexible so that it's just not useful in one way. You can attach it to one object and make it behave one way, or in one game make it behave one way, but in a different game or on a different object you attach the script and you make it behave differently, just by checking one little box. But we have more that we can do with this script. What if it's not the F key you want to use? Yeah, of course I could come into the code and change the key, but then that script is only good for that one letter. It would be nice to be able to use this script with any letter. Well, we can do that by creating another public variable. It's going to be of type string, meaning it's holding characters, in this case just a single character. Let's call it key. So basically, what key are we checking for? I'm not giving it a value right here. Again, I'm going to do that in the editor. So now I'm going to come down here and I'm going to change this to key. It's still a string. I don't need quotes around it because it's a variable of type string as opposed to a literal string. If I save this and check it out, looks like I might be getting some errors. It says input key named is unknown. If I press escape and stop and look at my script, well, that makes sense. The key has not been named yet. I didn't give it a value in the script, and I didn't give it a value in the editor. I should. Let's go ahead and type in F and run this again. Good, no errors. If I press F, it turns on. If I press F again, it turns off. Good. What if I had typed a capital F here, which a lot of people might do? What would happen? I'm going to run it again. If I press F now, it's not working. And if you look at the errors, it's saying that input key named F is unknown. It doesn't recognize a key named F. Let's come to our code and think about this. It's using this method getKeyDown, and it's sending it a parameter with a capital F. But that method, underneath the hood, if you were to look at the Unity method getKeyDown, doesn't recognize a string with a capital F. It has to be lowercase. But we want to make sure it does work if they type an uppercase letter. So what we need to do is change it to a lowercase. And I think the right place to do that is right when it starts. Right when the script begins, we're going to change the value of key to equal whatever it was before, and then we're going to use a method. It's a method that belongs to the string object in Unity. So because key is a string, I can use the string methods on it. The method we want is toLower, and that will convert every character in that string to lowercase, and then return that value, and we're going to store it back into the key variable. If I save this again, notice on my FPS controller, it still says capital F. If I run it now and press F, the light comes on. Wonderful. Press escape and stop this. So some of this I'm showing you just to introduce you to different ways of doing things. There is a better way of writing this that doesn't involve strings. So there is an object type in Unity of type keycode. Instead of naming it key here, I'll just call it keycode. So it's not a string any longer. I'm going to be storing a keycode here instead. I'm going to remove the toLower because there are no keycodes that are uppercase anyway, and it's not a string, so we don't want to think of it as a string. I think we can leave the start method empty again for a moment. But now what do we put down here inside the getKeyDown? Well, the getKeyDown does accept strings. We've been doing that. But if you look up that method, it also will accept other types of objects. Particularly, it accepts keycode objects. So I'm going to use the keycode variable to specify what key we're checking for. This may seem a little fuzzy and tricky right now, but as we get better and better at using Unity and learning object-oriented programming, these things will start coming together. If I save this now and look over at the editor, now the key code is giving me a drop down. It's not something I type into, which is nice because if I can type into it, I could put an F with the wrong case, or I could put in two Fs, which would definitely mess it up. By having a drop down, I'm restricting it to only things that Unity will recognize. What are the key codes? If I click on that, I see a huge list of key codes, backspace, tab, all kinds of things. And if I scroll down, I see my letters that I want to use. So I'm going to use the F key code. Again, that's not a string, so don't worry if it's uppercase or lowercase. It is a key code that Unity will recognize. And if I run it now, press F, it comes on, press F again, it turns off. Wonderful.